Hey, true believers. Chris Mack coming at you with Batman number 98. This is part 4 of the Joker War. And I know that the story's already done and over with, but I've slowly been taking my time because I don't want to just blow through it. And coming back to it at this issue, this was another emotional roller coaster. And oh man, it's so good that let's just go ahead and jump into it without even trying to explain my thoughts at the moment. Kind of let the book speak for itself. So I'm going to go ahead and jump over the beginning because it kind of has this really kind of fun tit for tat with Scarecrow and the Riddler over a game of chess. And I really don't want to get too much into that. What I really want to focus on with this book is where we left off with Batman being poisoned by Punchline and Harley trying to save him in one of Ivy's gardens. And right off the bat here, the colors, the oversaturation of all these yellows and purples and blues really sucks you into the story. And it's kind of funny because Bruce is having a conversation with Alfred in his mind, which I don't want to give away the beginning portion. I want you all to pick up this book and read it. But I like how Tinian, in the midst of all this madness, is able to throw some comedy in, and not like the holy kablowy macaroni. No, this is Harley being the way she's supposed to be. And she goes, oh, hell no, you've had enough tea. You're probably seeing a whole singing and dancing number right now, Batman. The musical on ice. Everyone with those big foam heads. Now, before we kind of get a reprieve where Harley thinks that everyone can kind of recruit, we get Harley and Punchline round 2. And I like how she goes, punching bag, or I mean, Punchline. And the artwork, oh my god. Every time I see this, I keep thinking that it's Goliam March, but this is Jorge Jimenez, and he has really stepped up his game in terms of artwork on this book. So, speaking of which, The Joker War Part 4, James Tynion IV writing, Jorge Jimenez art, Tomu Mori colors, Clayton Cowles lettering, Goliam March and Tomu Mori cover, and then here's everyone else working on it, and of course Batman was created by Bill Finger with Bob Kane. Now, before we can go into the Punchline stuff, we go back into Bruce's mind. And it gets a little wordy, yes. That's just something that's going to happen with a lot of modern comics. But I kind of feel like it's not wasted. Excuse me. You know, there's a little bit of back and forth between Bruce and Alfred, as there's always been, which we all always enjoyed. But Bruce is broken right now because Joker is taking everything that was his family's and has flipped it and using it against him. And he's saying he's going to kill thousands more after them, making them watch the same movie I watched the nights my parents were lost. Gotham City's death, bought and paid for by the Wayne fortune. And you kind of see that look of desperation in his eyes, that he's mortified. And there's this whole talk of tea, which is really, you'd think, oh my god, we're talking about tea. What are all those times you talk about coffee? Yes, there's a talk about tea. But it's basically kind of a way of talking about how Alfred would use things to soothe Bruce or to say things without saying, and they had this kind of silent understanding of how they would care for one another, and it's very endearing. And so Alfred kind of just gives him some straight talk. You know, he's saying the Joker knows you're his opposite. There's no difference to him in taking one life or a million lives, but there is to you. And then we get into all this lovely action. We see, you know, Harley's trying to tell Batman to wake up. We see the madness again of Punchline's face as she started to burn through Ivy's garden. And she's like, you can't behind, and the Punchline is kind of telling Harley, she's like, you can't hide behind your felled hero. And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll hide behind this big freaking gun instead. And so there's a face-off. And I love this silhouette. It's like you'd see something in a Shogun samurai film where they're just going at each other. It kind of reminds me of Kill Bill. And Punchline's like, you couldn't take me down last time. And so Harley's just like, oh, honey, I went soft on you last time. This time around, I'm not going to hold back. And so while we're getting these by Alfred is trying to pull Batman out of this spiral of depression, we just get treated to this lovely artwork. And while this action is happening, Punchline's trying to talk about how she thinks everyone's saying Harley Quinn is a joke. So she kind of gives a brief thing about how you think, you thought if we got rid of Batman, that Joker would only want you. I know the reality of where, the Joker has this ultimate plan, and I wanted to be part of it. It took a year after I finally found him to prove myself to him, which it says here. See the origin of Punchline in the Joker 80th anniversary special, which we will eventually go over. But what I like here is how Harley says, I thought Mr. J had a heart. You think he has a brain. But he's not doing this for any of the reasons you think he is. He doesn't believe in anything. And Punchline, it shakes her. And she goes, you don't get it. You want everyone to be as stupid as you were. And then Harley's had enough of her mouth. Now, Alfred eventually finally has to knock some sense into Batman. And these parts are hard, especially since Tom King decided to needlessly kill off Alfred. Anyway, but yeah, these moments are great. And it really gets Bruce moving. Now, he finally wakes up, goes after Punchline. Now I have to probably say this is probably the only real cliche panel, because Punchline's looking up and she goes, but that's not possible. And, he's coming after her. He goes, I'm Batman, which... I know it's supposed to be impactful, but just when it comes like that, to me, I think it's kind of hokey. But nonetheless, great page, because the way he's just coming in, he's covered in shadows, the lights, the backlighting there, great stuff. And so this issue is one of those where there's action, there's heartfelt moments. It doesn't really go into what the Joker's doing in Gotham and whatnot. This was more, I think, just the issue where where they have that hero's journey where they have to kind of make a decision for themselves. And this is where he finally says that he needs to bring in the family. So yeah, quick review, but Batman number 98, guys. This is one of those great stories where you kind of get to delve into Bruce's psyche and show why we love Batman and why it shows that he's one of those long-standing characters. And it also shows why we've always loved Alfred and why we're all so flapping mad that he's dead. And then it was just nice to see Harley return to form in this arc. And that's why I'm kind of hoping right now, they're getting ready to cancel her series because they're getting ready for that Future State, which I will not be going over any of those books. But after the Future State event, they're supposed to reboot the books again. Oh boy, another reboot. But I'm kind of hoping that they can get someone on Harley, even James Tynion if need be, to kind of bring her back to where she is here. Because seeing these two go against each other, and they kind of have this sort of, opposite and like dark mirror versions of one another, is a really cool idea. And like I said, Punchline was supposed to be a character that was not supposed to work, but it did. And that's why I think everyone's really starting to root for her as kind of a fan favorite villain. So if you've enjoyed what we went over today, please first and foremost support your local comic shop and pick up a copy. And if you've enjoyed this review, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to hit like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little bat bell next to subscribe, that way as we continue to upload content, you guys will get notified. Come to the channel, and we love to hear your feedback down in the comments below or on our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the description. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.